Hi, everyone. My name's Haley Delisle, and I'm the campaign director for HeatSmart Southern Tier. I'm joined with a few colleagues of mine, Adam Flint, the director of clean energy programs over at Nest. And then we also have some of our installer partners, which you'll hear later. And then we're also joined by some county planning folks, Shane Butler and Colleen Bradley. And they're going to just go through, kind of why this is a HeatSmart Chenango focused event. And then we'll get started and we'll hear from Adam Flint, who will be going through the presentation. And just one more thing, if you have any questions or comments, you can put these in the chat. I'll be monitoring that as we go through and we can get your questions answered. So now, Colleen, if you'd like to say a couple things about HeatSmart Chenango.
Yeah, so we're really excited to continue our work as a designated clean energy community in the leadership round of the whole Clean Energy Communities program. And one of these high impact action items is community campaigns. So which is what we want to bring here tonight, which is a clean heating and cooling campaign, or also HeatSmart Chenango. So we're looking to bring residents and businesses of Chenango County the opportunity to increase their energy efficiency and clean energy usage in partnership with Nest, and also helping the county receive grant money for future clean energy efficient projects, basically. So yeah, Shane, anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, we're just really excited to do this, and we hope that, not only is it benefiting us, but hopefully benefiting you in that you can save money on your energy. That's it.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be working with our friends once again at Chenango County. We've been down this road before, and I just want to commend Shane and Colleen for taking the initiative to partner with us to help residents help themselves and also help the county. I wish it were true in every county, and I'm glad it's true for Chenango. So let's get started. Before we dive into learning about energy efficiency and heat pumps, there are a number of programs coming up, two of which are HeatSmart Chenango programs. That is July 22nd at lunchtime and September 22nd at the same time. And we have a bunch of other presentations. You can find recordings and slide decks, including this one, at our website at nynest.org. That should be available not later than, I would say, Monday for this week. So Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow. We are a small nonprofit based in Binghamton. We work in Broome, Tioga, Chenango, and Delaware counties. And we have two areas of work. One is what you're seeing right now. We work to try to bring solid information about energy education and connecting folks with high quality installers that are competitively selected so that they can get assessments of their properties and get work done if they choose to do so. We also talk about the assessments available through the state, through the utility and the federal government. In addition, we bring folks together for a variety of different projects, and this is one of them. So HeatSmart Southern Tier, we're going to talk about that in just a minute, why this has value for you and for the county. Some of the technologies that our installers can install in your buildings, weatherization and heat pumps, incentives and financing, and how to participate. We will actually not talk about community shared solar today, missed that. So moving ahead, HeatSmart is part of, HeatSmart Southern Tier is part of a NYSERDA program. That's the New York State Energy Research Development Authority, New York's energy agency, that, as you can see, covers most of the state. There are 20-something community campaigns, as we're called, and our job is to do what we're doing here, bringing residents, businesses, government together with high quality installers who can make energy improvements on their buildings. In terms of the state's motivations, one of them is due to the fact that the state is taking a leadership role in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and increasing economic development and job creation through clean energy development. In terms of greenhouse gases, you can see here that buildings represent a third, roughly, of the greenhouse gas emissions in the state. So this is an even more important source than electricity generation. So it's very important that we move our buildings away from burning things to heating and cooling with electricity, which is known as environmentally beneficial electrification. In terms of the different benefits, you could see a reduction in energy costs. Home comfort and safety is definitely a plus. And I'll mention that I have a geothermal system in my own house, have had it for about a decade now. And I can talk a little bit about why that's so comfortable later. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions, of course, and increasing community awareness. We're going to be changing our energy system throughout the country and throughout the world between now and 2050. And those communities that embrace these opportunities are going to thrive as a result. There's going to be more jobs. Young people are going to stick around because there's ways in which they can make a good living and address our existential crisis at the same time. And there's a host of other benefits that come with this. So again, it's great that the county is taking leadership in this area. So our program covers weatherization, which is often known as energy efficiency, and heat pumps, ground source, often known as geothermal, air source, sometimes known as mini splits, and heat pump hot water heaters. These are our partners for this collaboration, and for the purposes of Chenango County, the top row is relevant. Our Delaware County partners obviously wouldn't be working in Chenango County unless there's some folks out here from Delaware County. So our air source partners are Air Source LLC, based right in Chenango County. Yay. Daly Geothermal, based out of Penn Yan, and the Insulation Man right here in the city of Binghamton. So let's talk a little bit about weatherization. This is really the first and best thing that you can do for your house. It's actually what I did first. And the programs available now are a little bit more generous than they used to be, depending on your income. Reducing your energy consumption is obviously the cheapest energy there is, right? The energy you don't use. Home safety. People don't often think about energy improvements in this way, but it's a fact. The fewer things you are burning in your house, the fewer possibilities there are for something to go wrong. That something could be an improperly vented gas hot water heater, or as in my case, you could have an oil spill in your basement, which happened to me before I got the geothermal system. That was $5,000. Could have been worse too. So it's generally much safer to have electrified heating and cooling appliances. Home comfort, super important, right? We want to make sure that the homes are not drafty. We live in a rather humid part of the world, and we need to make sure before we tighten up homes that the humidity is not going to be an issue, whether that's from your bathroom or kitchen or from moisture from the outside. And also reducing ice dams, which can really mess up a roof. In the olden days, before equipment was available to detect gaps in the walls with infrared or gaps in the building envelope with the blower door, people used to drive around and see big icicles hanging from the houses, and then they would know, okay, this is a place where there's some hollow walls. Speaking of hollow walls, here's a model of a home that's got some leaks in it. You can see in a number of areas where there are penetrations to the building envelope, which is simply the barrier between the unconditioned outdoors and the conditioned indoors. You can see the blue arrows where air is coming in through those gaps. And then as hot air rises, it comes up through the house, and your hard-earned hot air that you paid for, some of it is leaking out the top and taking with it through the house the air from the basement, which is not generally your best air. So this is really the first and best thing to do, is make sure that your house is reasonably tight before you look at a new heating source. So let's look at new heating sources. So what is a heat pump? This is actually not even a new technology, and it is not a foreign technology to any of you. If you have a refrigerator freezer in your house, you own a heat pump right now. What that heat pump does is pumps heat out of those insulated boxes to different degrees, right? The freezer being much colder than the refrigerator, which is why it's warm around your fridge, because the heat's been pumped out. And so what a heat pump is for heating and cooling is it's reversible. It can either take heat in, either from the air in the case of air source heat pumps, or from the ground in the case of geothermal, or it can, at this time of year, pump it out of your house and into the air or into the ground. So these are the three technologies and their utility. So ground source systems can do both space heating and cooling, as well as hot water heating. Air source heat pumps do space heating and cooling, and heat pump hot water heaters are for hot water heating. In terms of geothermal, there's actually a plethora of different ways in which you can design these systems, but these are the most common loop fields in residential geothermal design. The image on your left is a horizontal loop field. The image on your right is vertical. I have the one on the right. That's typically indicated where you just don't have a lot of space, because having a horizontal loop means tearing up a significant portion of your property to bury those pipes. And those are what exchange the heat between the house and the ground, depending on the season, is depending on the direction. So there's a fluid in those pipes that in the wintertime carries that constant temperature under the ground, which is always above freezing, into the house, where a compressor brings it up to heating temperature, and it's distributed through the house through a distribution system, depending on what you have. So some of the benefits of ground source heat pumps: super efficient, right? Because of the fact that the ground temperature is essentially your battery, right? The sun shines down on the ground and the earth holds that heat. And even when it's covered with snow, it's warmer there than it is up above. And these also are long-lived systems. The loop fields are typically good for 60, 70, 80 years. The furnaces, the air source furnaces, usually at least 20. As I mentioned before, eliminating fossil fuels from your home, particularly those of you who, like me, get delivered fuels. I was on number 2 heating oil. Some of you folks are on propane. Right now, the costs are not as painful as they have been, but for those who know, I was paying at the worst in 2008, $4.05 a gallon for number 2 heating oil. That was a very painful year, many, many thousands of dollars on heating fuel. I have not had to have any heating fuel delivered since the system was installed. And you can include domestic hot water heating if the system is designed for that. So let's move to air source heat pumps, often called ductless mini splits. These are what you might call the most flexible form of heat pump heating and cooling. Geothermal heat pump systems are whole house systems. You do not just go for a room or two with geo. It doesn't make financial sense. It doesn't make engineering sense. Not true with air source heat pumps. With air source heat pumps, you can decide that, that one room in your house that is freezing during the winter and or boiling in the summer, that you're going to condition just that room. Or you can get a whole house system or anything in between. You have the exterior compressor units and the interior air handlers that you can see. The top left one is perhaps the most common and is the most economical. You have a cassette to your right, and then below a mini, what is it called here? Mini duct system. Yeah, so that's the most, those are more understated. If you don't want to be, have those so visible. Floor mount systems can be very convenient if you want to keep that higher space clear. Air source heat pump benefits, also energy savings, particularly if you're heating with delivered fuels like propane and heating oil or kerosene. Air conditioning and heating without ductwork. This is actually a very big deal, because it's often the case that when you go to retrofit a home, the ducts that are there for using the existing equipment to move heat from your furnace or boiler around your house are, for one reason or another, not ready to be used as they are for heat pump heating and cooling. That doesn't matter with air source heat pumps, because you have a connection directly between the exterior unit and the interior unit that bypasses ductwork. You don't have to replace the existing heating system. Some people use air source heat pumps to supplement their existing systems. Other people just tear out the existing system, or they build a new house and this is it. So you can do it either way. Zone control, both of these technologies are quiet. So what you don't have with air source or ground source heat pumps is that phenomenon with air ducted furnaces where the blower comes on and goes whoosh for a while, makes noise, and then it shuts off and stops distributing heating. This is nice, even heat that sort of happens in the background. And, there is sound, but it's really, really quiet. Lastly, heat pump hot water heaters. This actually uses indoor air to heat your hot water. And so it's an electric water heater with an air source heat pump sitting on the top. It does have that electric hot water heater for meeting high demand backups. So when you've got a lot of different things running in the house or over time, you're not going to be left high and dry with cold water, regardless of the demand. So it allows for that the economic benefit of the air source heat pump on the top. And then when demand gets high, the electric resistance part kicks in. More efficient than typical electric water heaters, and also can provide humidification. Very important, though, to put these in the right spot. And I can talk about that in the Q&A if there's interest. So let's talk about the economics of getting these things in your home. So I'm not going to go through all of this. And also just a reminder again, please put your questions in the chat and I'll either get to them as we go or get to them at the end. And so the three different types of heat pumps, these are all handled through NYSEG. And I should mention at this point, because in Chenango County, you do have municipal electric service in some communities. In those communities, you cannot access these benefits, the ones that are on this screen. You have to be paying what's called the system benefit charge on an NYSEG bill to get those. The federal incentives you can get, and I'll talk about those in a minute. So for air source heat pumps, these are cold climate heat pumps. Very, very, very important that you have an installer that understands how to assess a home, do a heat load calculation, which is a fancy way for saying how much heat pump in what location is going to make you comfortable. And they're putting in the right models. We've definitely had situations where folks have had different offers. They've taken a lower bid and they've ended up very disappointed. And so, you get what you pay for. Make sure that your installer, if it's not one of ours, is listed with the utility and with NYSERDA, because then you have a certain amount of quality control and you know that they're going to be installing heat pumps that are made for this climate, not Florida. So for the air source heat pumps, if you do a partial load, remember I was talking about the fact that you can have just 1 or 2 rooms. You get $500 per outdoor unit, a portion of which goes to the contractor, unless the contractor chooses not to take that, which is the case with ours. Or if you do a full load, $1,000 per 10,000 BTU hours of maximum capacity at 5 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a pretty obscure number. And what I would say as a rule of thumb is the quote unquote average house is about 40,000 BTUs. Don't remember that number, because you don't know how many BTUs you need unless you're an engineer or have had an assessment done until there's a heat load calculation done. So that's why we sometimes hesitate to give numbers, because they may not be your numbers. Ground source heat pumps, similar sort of approach, except it's full load all the way, except a little bit more per BTU hour. Heat pump hot water heaters, you can see the different options here. Don't want to get too deeply into the weeds. Again, you'll be able to access this presentation at nynest.org, certainly by Monday, perhaps earlier. So let's get to federal tax credits. Unfortunately, sadly, as you can see, there's nothing for air source at all. Hopefully that will change. For ground source, we have a 22% tax credit. I took advantage of a tax credit of this kind when I got my own system, and it's pretty sweet. So, whatever the gross cost is of your system, you can deduct from your federal taxes this percentage of that. So this is about 1/5, right? In my own case, my tax liability was such that I didn't pay federal taxes for 2 years because it rolls over. So you don't have to be somebody who's paying enough federal taxes to take the whole credit in year one. You can roll it over year two, year three. And then with heat pumps, there's a $300 credit. So let's talk about loans. Obviously, you may have a bank or credit union that you like that's going to give you a good rate, and you should definitely check that out. I'll just talk here about the products that are available through NYSERDA. All installers that we work with have financing they bring to the table from specialized banks, and they can talk with you about those. So with NYSERDA, they have a loan that is income dependent. So if your income is less than 200% of area median income, and we can show you those numbers shortly, you can borrow up to $25,000 at fixed rate terms of 5, 10, or 15 years. And the interest rate for that is 3.49%. If you're above that, it's 6.99. The difference between the smart energy loan and on-bill recovery, well, the primary difference, I should say, is that the smart energy loan is a standard unsecured loan. You will need to pay that loan off regardless of whether you're still in the house when the loan is done, right? So if you sell, you're going to still have to pay on that loan. On-bill recovery, you can actually transfer that to the new owner. Obviously you could negotiate whatever you like, but that's one of the advantages that the on-bill recovery loan has. It is a little bit more challenging to get because it requires a certain payback and percentage of what's being loaned to you relative to the savings per month. Companion loan. So NYSERDA this year recognized that some people really want to do the whole thing, right? So they want to get their home insulated. They want to get a heat pump, and some even want to get on top of that some solar. Well, you can't do that for 25 grand. So there is a companion loan to add on if you use one of the other products. That's at 7%, 6.99 regardless for larger work scopes. So then there are another couple of financing programs, incentive programs through NYSERDA that are income eligible programs, meaning that if your income is eligible, you can qualify. So the first is a moderate income program. You can see the household size income limits here. So family of two under $81,908 can get up to $5,000, 50% off project costs. So if your project scope is 10,000 or larger, 5,000 is the maximum you can get. For landlords of small multifamily buildings, 2 to 4 units, the limit is 10,000, and eligibility can be based on your tenant's income. The eligibility has been expanded through at least the end of June. No word yet on whether that's going to be extended. So these income limit numbers are actually higher than they used to be. They used to be at 80%. Another expansion is that you can use this to pay for heat pumps. So these are all new benefits. Finally, in terms of incentives, there's the Empower program. This is for folks who qualify for programs like HEAP, the Heat Energy Home Energy Assistance Program, or TANF, and this is free. This is free stuff. So the assessment, the efficiency improvements are without cost. There are some limitations to what this will pay for, but it does include heat pumps. So this is our final slide before we go to questions and discussion. Before we go to questions and discussion, I should say, our partners are going to talk a little bit about their companies and what they do. The first stop is to sign up for a home energy assessment. You can do that at our website. Whoops, my apologies. At nynest.org. Once you get a sign up, we send that over to the appropriate installer. So you indicate what technology or technologies you're interested in. They will do that assessment, schedule that with you, and give you a quote. And then at that point, you decide if you want to go forward or not. And if you do, you sign a contract, and your installer will work with you to apply for the appropriate incentives and financing and complete the installation work. I will say one final thing before I pass the baton off. I think we'll start with Jess at the Insulation Man. The contractors are busier than I don't know, I'm not going to say ever, but they're extremely busy for this time of year. And part of that is due to work that got backed up in the pandemic, and also that people really started focusing on fixing up their homes. So you definitely want to get the process started as soon as possible if you have some interest. The assessments are free. You get information about your home. And as a homeowner, I feel like everybody should get a home energy assessment at minimum, just to learn about how your home functions, to get another assessment for heat pumps, and then you can make up your minds. So appreciate your time, and I'll pass it off now to Jess from the Insulation Man, and after her, Leah Daly from Daily Geothermal.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jess, and like Adam said, I'm over here with the Insulation Man. We focus on the weatherization and energy efficiency side of everything. We've pioneered spray foam in the southern tier. We've been in business since 1989. We are a woman-owned business, and we're a small local business at that. We provide the energy assessments, and we come up with a game plan that works with both the homeowner and the needs of the home. And, we get your house ready, whether your focus is on the energy efficiency or if your focus is on the heat pumps, we can get you ready for either. So, we work really well with our partners in providing the assessments for homes for some of their customers, and, taking care of some of the installation for them. So, and I will pass it off to Leah.
Hi, I'm Leah Daly, and I'm part of Daily Electric and Daily Geothermal. We've been in business since 2007 and started pretty much doing home construction with a couple GCs, and we've kind of extended out and do plumbing and electric for our GCs, but now we do geothermal and air source for even more people. We've been part of HeatSmart Tompkins and Southern Tier, and now Finger Lakes South for the last 2.5 years, I think, with Southern Tier, and have very enjoyed Adam and the program. We are a small business, about 20 people. We primarily do geothermal. We would like to do geothermal almost 75% of the time. I think we're at about 60% right now. I do want to make a small correction to Adam's slide. The federal tax credit is 26%, and it was extended until the December 31st of 2022. So I did want to just make note that it's not 22%, it's actually 26%. We enjoy doing geo. We've done it for a lot of years, and I'm going to pass it. Well, I don't think Dave's here, so I'm going to pass it back to Adam.
Thanks for that, Leah. I actually corrected that in an earlier version and I missed it. Yeah, 26%. That's right. So at this point, we'd love to hear your questions from folks who are with us on the webinar. You can either put your question in the chat or raise your hand, and Haley can unmute you and you can ask your question yourself. So while people are gathering up thoughts to ask questions, I'll throw a few in. Can you talk, Leah, a little bit about what the process is to actually get a system put in, and a little bit about the maintenance that's necessary for this system once it's done?
Sure. So the process is first we get the lead, and then we do a site visit. And at that point, we would come and do pretty much we do the whole house assessment, see what the customer is looking for. We go back to the office, do a heat loss on the house so that we can determine really where we stand for the house. Sorry, somebody came to the door. We then give an estimate. We try and get our estimates out to people within 12 to 24 hours and get them back to that. Then if the customer is happy about that, Then we will schedule the install. The next process is getting the equipment, about 7 to 10 days for equipment delivery. And then we are about 3 to 4 weeks out right now with actual installs. We would also at that point get in contact, either it's a vertical loop field or it's a horizontal loop field. We put that into place. We try and have our vertical loop fields done before we arrive. Horizontals we'll do while we're there because we do those, but the verticals, we have to get the well drillers involved. And at that point, most systems, if it's a swap out, like you already have a furnace and we're going to put a water furnace system in, you know, are 2 to 3 days. Hydronic, which is water to waters, are longer. They're 2 weeks, all said and done. They're a more complex system. And new construction, pretty much we're looking at a week and a half to 2 weeks for full install of a system and a duct system. And hydronic, again, is 2 to 3 weeks. They just are much more complex. So that's our system.
So there is a question that Shane threw in the chat. What is the typical savings per year going from fuel oil to a heat pump? I took a shot at that, but I think you'll probably have more to say. Obviously, this is depending on the fuel costs, right, for oil from year to year, and also the nature of the installation. Is it horizontal or vertical field? Is it hydronic, which means hot water, or is it forced air? What sort of distribution system are you dealing with, and how much needs to be done with that? That being said, what's your answer to that question, Leah?
So there's a lot of factors with that, but right now fuel oil is not that expensive. It's still more expensive than using electricity, and the efficiency of all of like those furnaces and boilers are not as good as the heat pumps. So they're saying that you like, I think most of people will tell you it's 30 to 40% savings. But again, it depends on your house. It depends on if you get Jess involved and get winterization and your house is tight. If it's new construction, it's going to be tight because you have to per the code. So the savings on it is really dependent. We do a GeoLink, which takes, if it's a retro, we would do your whole house, the heat loss. We would take your utility bills, what you spend a year, and then we can put it all into a system and we get a report that will tell us what your expected savings would be, and we give that to our customers. So I can't really say it for an individual without looking at it what it would be, but I've been told it's 30 to 40%.
I can talk about my own experience. The trouble is that it's just my experience, right? And it was at a different 10-year period. I was motivated to do this because heating oil went up to $4.05 a gallon. It's nowhere near that now. So one thing I can say is that you're protected from price volatility of your fuel because electricity prices do fluctuate, but nothing like delivered fuel. Delivered fuel is all over the place. Even natural gas fluctuates more than electricity in price. So my savings when prices were high was extremely substantial. So I'm sort of comparing from a situation where I had very little insulation and an oil furnace at the worst possible price time in the last 10, 12 years. I think that year I spent something like $6,000 or $7,000 between oil and electric. Once I had the insulation in and I had my geothermal system in, the price of oil had come down by then, but not like it has at this point. And I've never broken $4,500 for my annual bill. I also have a big house. Right. So all of those numbers I just said, they're of limited utility to you because your house may be smaller than mine. You may not have to have wells drilled like I did. So really the best way to get numbers that you can rely on is get a free assessment. Other questions? So I'm actually going to ask Colleen and Shane, could you say a little bit more about what happens provided that the right number of residents get energy efficiency and or heat pumps? What exactly is the benefit to the county?
I can take that one, Shane. So yeah, we get 25 residents sign up and that makes Chenango County eligible for $15,000 in grant money that we would then put towards another clean energy or energy efficient project in the county. We have a few in mind, but it definitely just depends on getting those participants signed up. But we would love to bring more resiliency and sustainability to the county. So it's really why and also of course we want to help out residents with their energy use as well.
Fantastic. Jess, could you talk a little bit about what it's like to go through an energy assessment? And if you get work done, what kinds of things happen? And, with energy efficiency, it's also very individual depending on the home. My own home had the misfortune to have blown in urea formaldehyde insulation, which both gave you some off-gassing in its early years and then turned to powder later. Not a good product, not on the market for years. And so fundamentally, I had no insulation going into it. So it was actually a very big job. And I got a lot of spray foam. So, for a 4,000 square foot house from the 1950s, that's one sort of job. It may not be a very typical illustration. So Jess, do you want to give a sketch of what it's like to work with the insulation man?
Yeah, so the process starts with me. I'm usually the one that talks to everybody when they first call in. I get it set up with the audit. The audit application itself is just one page. It's a simple, they really just want, your name, your address, roundabout of what your income level is. They have different, boxes to check off for that. The intake before the audit itself is just a quick phone call with me so I can get other information about the house that I can't find online. I generally will pull a property report from, whatever county the house is in from the GIS portal for that county. So, it's really just getting, a little bit more personal information about the house. So our auditor will come out, he'll go through everything, he'll identify any problem areas, he'll also do combustion testing on all the major mechanicals like a furnace or a boiler, your hot water heater. If you have an oven that runs off of propane or gas, he'll test that. He'll make sure everything's functioning properly, drafting properly. He'll make sure that health and safety issues are, up to code to where they need to be. And he'll come back, he'll put together the proposal, he'll put together an audit report, and, that audit report itself will break down everything that he's found in the house that should be addressed. He can also tell you based on what the cost of the individual measure is, how much that'll save, on average per year for the amount of money that's being invested into that particular area. So for program customers, I take care of all of that paperwork and getting it processed. Get people into the Empower and the Assisted Home Performance programs. I also do the loan paperwork for people that need financing. And from there, for people that are in the program, it's just a matter of, submitting the job for approval, once the customer, has agreed to have the work done. So for Empower customers, that max amount is $10,000. A lot of times we see, customers are able to get their entire house insulated for under that amount of money. And that's at no cost to the customer for people who are empowered. For people who are assisted home performance, we see it a lot where they're using both the program and the loan financing, and they don't have, a lot of times they don't have to pay out of pocket for everything. They just have to wait until that loan payment comes in. So, right now, as far as audits, I'm booking into the middle of June. So the sooner, an audit is requested, the sooner I can get somebody in. Work right now, we're booked out, safe side is, 6 to 8 weeks, but that can change anytime, depending on the weather, the crew, the day, and, just how we're able to schedule things. We try to get more than one job in a day if we can. Some jobs are bigger and, they'll take up a couple days. So, it's just the quicker we get this process started, the better it'll be for the customer, because, you know, at that 6 to 8 week mark, we're looking at getting into a point where the weather's going to start breaking again very soon. And, you know, it'll be better for the comfort level of the house to be weatherized before that weather hits.
Thanks so much, Leah. So before we finish up, I'm just going to make one last call to see if anyone has any questions that they want to ask.
Adam, in case someone's interested, you know, after hearing some of the questions and answers, can you put up where they should contact in case they're interested again?
Yep, I will put that slide up once more. While I'm doing that, I want to thank Colleen and Shane for partnering with us and joining us today. Also, our partners from the Insulation Man and Daily Geothermal. Unfortunately, Dave Turner was unable to join us. He's in an attic somewhere where there is not any reception. This happens sometimes. So let me just quickly put up for you to see here our contact information. You can give us a call at 607-873-9220. You can go to our website to sign up at nynest.org, or you can email us at info@nynest.org. And just as a reminder, we have a bunch of programs coming up. This recording of this webinar will be at that website along with the slide deck. And feel free to reach out to us and we will help you out. Any final thoughts before we close? All right, well, thanks everyone and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.